Maybe you just clicked out of curiosity. Or maybe, without even realizing it, you were looking for a quiet space where words come slowly and silence is part of the story. I wrote this with care, like weaving memories, pains, and moments of clarity, hoping that somewhere along the way, you'll see a bit of yourself. If that happens, even for just a moment, stay a while. Listen as long as you can, and if you feel like it, leave a small sign. It doesn't have to be anything big. Sometimes a simple, "I'm here," can change everything. And if you do stick around, a like, a share, or a quick comment means more than you know. But only if and when it feels right for you. Welcome. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in Portland, Oregon. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee on the small balcony of my one-bedroom apartment, scrolling mindlessly through work emails before another long day at the IT help desk. Then my phone rang. The caller ID said, Portland General Hospital, Billing Department. I hesitated before answering. Hello? A calm, professional voice responded. Good morning, is this Emily Carter? Yes, this is Sarah from the hospital's financial services. We're calling to confirm that your insurance has successfully covered $200,000 for your cardiac surgery last month, and we just need your signature to finalize the patient file. I sat there, frozen. Excuse me, what surgery? Your heart valve replacement on June 11th, she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Our records show you were discharged after a 5-day recovery? I almost laughed, thinking it had to be some kind of scam. I've never had surgery in my life. I didn't even go to the hospital last month. I think you have the wrong person. The line went quiet for a few seconds. Ma'am, our system has your name, date of birth, social security number, and signature on all the consent forms. Could you check your email? I just sent over the scanned copies. I opened my laptop with shaking hands, heart thudding. There it was, a PDF attachment. Emily Carter, admission documents. I clicked. My stomach dropped. Every line of information was mine. Full name and address, social security number, date of birth, insurance policy ID, emergency contact, my parents. Even the signature on the consent form looked terrifyingly like mine. Just a little shaky, like I'd been nervous when signing. I whispered into the phone, That's not me. I never signed this. Sarah's voice became careful, measured. Miss Carter, if this isn't you, then someone may have committed medical identity fraud in your name. I need you to come in today to verify your identity. If we don't resolve this, you will be legally responsible for the $200,000 claim. My coffee had gone cold. My hands were damp on the keyboard. Somewhere, someone had just lived a month of their life pretending to be me, cutting into my insurance, my credit, my future. And now I was the one in danger of losing everything. I stared at the email again, trying to process how my entire life had just shifted in a single phone call. And then, at the bottom of the hospital discharge papers, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. Discharge address, 123 Willow Creek Lane. That wasn't my apartment, it was my parents' house. I sat frozen on my balcony, staring at the PDF on my laptop like it was some kind of cursed object. The documents weren't just hospital intake forms, they included a promissory agreement for $200,000 against my insurance and personal credit if the claim wasn't fully covered. My name and social security number were all over it. A drop of sweat rolled down my neck as I scrolled through the pages. Emergency contact, Robert and Linda Carter, my parents. Mailing address, 123 Willow Creek Lane, my parents' house. That same address had been on the discharge papers in Chapter 1. Suddenly, the pieces started clicking into place, and an icy suspicion crept in. I opened Facebook, more out of instinct than logic. I hadn't checked my sister Rachel's profile in weeks. We were cordial, but not close. She'd always been the fun, spontaneous daughter, while I was the responsible one, stuck paying my own rent and working 60-hour weeks. Her timeline loaded, and my breath caught. June 13th, exactly 2 days after the supposed surgery. A photo of Rachel in a hospital bed, beaming under a soft white blanket. The caption read, "Finally smiling again after the hardest weeks of my life. Blessed second chances." My fingers shook as I scrolled through the comments. Aunt Susan. "So happy for you, sweetheart." Rachel's best friend. "Girl, you are a fighter. Can't wait to see you up and running." Rachel replied, "Couldn't have done this without my amazing little sister. Thank you for always supporting me." I just stared at the screen. My coffee table blurred as my pulse thudded in my ears. She had literally thanked me publicly because she'd stolen my name, my insurance. She had literally thanked me publicly because she'd stolen my name, my insurance, and my financial identity to pay for her surgery. I leaned back in my chair, whispering to myself, "Oh my God, it's Rachel." It wasn't a random scammer or an identity thief across the country. It was my own sister. And judging by the comments and her radiant smile in that hospital selfie, she wasn't even trying to hide it. She'd been celebrating while leaving me holding a $200,000 bag. That moment, the fear started to harden into something else, an ache of betrayal I could feel in my teeth. I closed my laptop and sat in silence, staring at my muted phone. I knew this wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about family and what they were willing to sacrifice if it meant saving themselves. The drive to my parents' house in the suburbs felt longer than usual, though it was only 30 minutes from my apartment in Portland. I kept replaying the hospital call in my head, Rachel's smiling hospital photo, and that comment. Couldn't have done this without my amazing little sister. By the time I turned into Willow Creek Lane, my hands were slick on the steering wheel. Their 2-story house came into view, with its perfectly trimmed hedges and American flag waving lazily in the summer breeze. It looked so normal, like it couldn't possibly be the place where my life had just been hijacked. I rang the doorbell, and Rachel was the one who opened the door. "Emily," she said brightly, like she hadn't just committed a felony. "Wow, this is a surprise. Come in, Mom's making her peach cobbler." I didn't step inside. Instead, I pulled out the hospital documents from my tote bag and held them up like a badge, her face drained of color. She froze for a heartbeat, then forced a laugh. "Oh, that, I can explain." "Explain?" My voice cracked. "You used my name, my insurance, my social security number. $200,000, Rachel." She glanced over her shoulder as if worried the neighbors might hear and lowered her voice. "Shh, don't be so dramatic. It's not like it's hurting you. I needed the surgery, and we're family." Before I could respond, Mom appeared in the doorway behind her, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Oh, sweetheart, you found out," she said softly, like I'd just discovered a surprise party, not a life-altering betrayal. "Found out?" I laughed, but it came out sharp, almost hysterical. "That my own sister stole my identity? That the hospital thinks I owe $200,000? Mom reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "Emily, honey." Rachel's heart was failing. The doctor said it was urgent. We couldn't get her approved for that kind of surgery on her own. You're young, healthy. You weren't even using your insurance. Dad appeared next, leaning against the doorway, his voice calm but firm. "Your sister almost died. Are you really going to make this about money?" I stared at him, stunned. "About money? This is fraud. I could go to jail. My credit, my future, it's all on the line." Mom's voice wavered, almost pleading. Please, don't make this public. It's just a family matter. We take care of each other. Think of it as an act of love. An act of love? My voice shook with disbelief. You call stealing my name and signing my life away love? Rachel folded her arms, finally speaking up. You're overreacting. You always do. I'll pay it back eventually. But if you go to the hospital or the police, you'll ruin everything. For me, for Mom and Dad. Do you really want that on your conscience? For a moment, I felt like I was 16 again, the responsible daughter who always cleaned up after her sister's messes. But then the weight of the documents in my hand brought me back to reality. I looked at the three of them, the family I thought would protect me, and felt something cold settle in my chest. In that moment, I realized, to them, I wasn't a daughter. I was collateral. I turned without another word, walked back to my car, and drove away with my jaw clenched and my heart pounding. Somewhere between Willow Creek and my apartment, the shock hardened into resolve. If they thought I was going to stay quiet to protect the family, they didn't know me at all. I drove home from my parents' house in silence, the only sound in my car the soft hum of tires against the asphalt. My chest felt heavy, but my mind was razor sharp. I knew yelling or pleading wouldn't change anything. My family had already made their choice. They had gambled with my future to save Rachel, and they expected me to just take it. When I got back to my apartment, I locked the door, closed the blinds, and opened my laptop. If they saw me as nothing more than collateral, then I would stop playing the responsible daughter and start protecting myself, quietly. First, I called Portland General Hospital and asked to speak with the fraud department. A man named David picked up. I explained everything, careful and calm, even though my hands trembled under the desk. He said, Ms. Carter, if someone used your insurance without consent, that is medical identity theft. I need you to come in to fill out a fraud report, and we'll start an investigation immediately. Next, I called Blue Horizon Insurance, my health provider. They escalated my case to their Special Investigations Unit. The agent's tone shifted when I mentioned the forged documents. If that signature isn't yours, Ms. Carter, you could have been held responsible for the full $200,000 if we hadn't caught it in time. Please gather any evidence that proves your location and activity on the date of admission. I opened a new folder on my computer and labeled it Rachel Fraud, Evidence. Inside, I started saving everything. Photos of my actual signature from my lease and driver's license, screenshots of Rachel's Facebook hospital post and her comment thanking me, my work time card from June 11th, proving I was logged into the help desk system all day. The PDF copies of the hospital forms with the shaky, forged Emily Carter signature. I even scanned my old tax documents to have multiple verified samples of my real signature. The more I looked at Rachel's signature on the hospital papers, the angrier I felt. She had tried to copy my cursive, but the loops on the C in Carter were off, and the tail on the Y in Emily curved upward instead of down. I stared at it for a long time, then whispered to myself, Got you. That night, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Emily, let's just talk this out as a family. Don't make this worse. I didn't respond, because for the first time in my life, I realized silence could be my sharpest weapon. No screaming matches, no threats, just facts, law, and patience. If Rachel thought she could sign my name and walk away smiling, she was about to learn that I don't forget. The next morning, I decided to stop waiting for disaster to hit me. I opened my laptop and searched. Medical Identity Theft Lawyer, Portland. I found Margaret Holloway, a local attorney specializing in healthcare fraud and insurance disputes. Her reviews described her as relentless and scary good in court. Perfect. I emailed her a brief outline of my case and attached a few scanned documents. Less than an hour later, my phone rang. Emily Carter? This is Margaret Holloway. I just read your email. Her voice was steady, low, and confident. I'll be blunt. If you don't act immediately, you could end up responsible for that $200,000 bill and flagged for insurance fraud yourself. Hospitals and insurers often assume the policyholder is involved until proven otherwise. My stomach tightened. So, what do I do? First, she said, you'll file a police report for identity theft. This creates an official record that you did not authorize the surgery. Second, we'll submit a formal fraud claim with your insurance and the hospital with all supporting evidence. Third, keep every shred of proof. Social media posts, work logs, financial statements. Judges and investigators like paper trails. Her calm, methodical tone gave me a strange sense of control. That afternoon, I drove to the Portland Police Bureau. The officer at the front desk raised an eyebrow when I explained. So, your sister impersonated you to get heart surgery? Yes, I said quietly, handing him the hospital packet. She signed my name, used my insurance, and left me holding the bag. He whistled under his breath. I've seen stolen credit cards, not stolen bypasses. He typed up the official report, then handed me a copy. Keep this safe. If she defaults, or if collections come after you, this is your shield. Next came the insurance fraud division. Margaret had already prepped the claim form. I uploaded every file I'd collected. Screenshots of Rachel's Facebook post from Chapter 2. Her comment thanking me publicly. My time card logs proving I was at work the day of her admission. The PDF copies of the forged hospital signature. I even added a side-by-side comparison of my signature and hers, with a note. Notice the upward loop on the Y. This is not my signature style. When Margaret saw my evidence folder, she nodded approvingly. This is airtight. Now we wait for the web to close in. The phrase gave me chills. A web. That's exactly what this felt like. Every email I sent, every document I filed was another thread tightening around Rachel. And I didn't have to lift my voice or send a single angry text. She wouldn't see it coming until the knock on the door. 3 weeks after filing the police report, I thought the storm might finally calm down. Rachel had been discharged from the hospital, and my lawyer said the insurance investigation was moving forward. But instead of lying low, Rachel started texting me. First, it was subtle. Hey, Em, since you're already involved, maybe you could help cover some of the out-of-pocket costs, just until I'm back on my feet. I stared at the message in disbelief. She'd stolen my identity for $200,000, and now she wanted me to help pay? I didn't reply. A day later, she doubled down. You're being cold. I almost died. You make good money. This wouldn't even hurt you. It's the least you could do for your sister. The audacity made my hands shake. I tossed my phone on the couch and paced the room. Then came the group texts from my parents. Emily, we need to talk. Rachel is still recovering, and she's under extreme stress. If you push this legal stuff, she could be denied follow-up care or even banned from our insurance network. Please think about the bigger picture. Are you really willing to destroy your sister's life over paperwork? She needed you. We're ashamed you can be this heartless. I sat at my kitchen table, phone glowing in my hand, trying to absorb their words. Heartless. Ashamed. Destroying her life. They weren't worried about the crime Rachel had committed. They weren't worried about my future, my credit, or my mental health. They only saw me as a tool to be used, or guilted, into submission. By the next weekend, the social pressure spread beyond our family group chat. While walking to get my mail, I saw Mrs. Whitaker, the neighbor from across the street at my parents' house. She waved at me, then hesitated. You know, she said softly. Your sister's been through so much. Everyone's saying you're taking this a bit far. My jaw tightened. Everyone? Well, your aunt mentioned it at church. Rachel said she just needed a little help, but you're letting lawyers handle family matters. It just seems cold, dear. I forced a polite smile and went back inside, but my chest burned. Rachel wasn't just leaning on my parents. She was building a sympathy army to shame me into compliance. That night, I opened my laptop again. Screenshots of Rachel's texts, saved. Copies of my parents' guilt-tripping messages, saved. Even a note about the conversation with Mrs. Whitaker, logged. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't scared. I was focused. They could beg. They could shame me. They could turn the whole neighborhood against me. But I had something stronger than their guilt. Evidence and the law. And with every new message, every subtle threat, they were just tightening the web I'd already built. Nearly 2 months had passed since I filed the reports, and the tension was unbearable. But I kept reminding myself this was a marathon, not a sprint. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed with an email from my lawyer, Margaret. The subject line read, "Investigation results, important." I opened it with trembling hands. The hospital's fraud investigation report was thorough. Signature analysis. The handwriting experts confirmed the signature on the hospital consent forms was a close imitation, but not mine. Small inconsistencies, especially on the capital letters, proved forgery. Surveillance footage. Internal security cameras recorded Rachel checking in at the admissions desk, presenting herself as Emily Carter. The footage showed her wearing hospital ID bracelets with my name. Time verification. My employer provided time-stamped login data, confirming I was on the help desk phone lines and logged into the system during Rachel's hospital admission and surgery dates. Margaret called right after I read the email. Emily, this is exactly the proof we needed. The hospital and insurance companies can't ignore this. Rachel's actions are now classified as identity theft and insurance fraud, 2 serious federal offenses. She explained the next steps. We're sending a formal notice to Rachel's legal counsel, demanding reimbursement of the $200,000 and notification that criminal charges will be pursued if she refuses. You'll also be cleared from any financial responsibility. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That evening, I sat quietly on my couch, thinking about how close I'd come to disaster. Had I waited another week, Rachel's fake surgery could have dragged me into debt collections or worse, legal prosecution for fraud. But now the web was tightening around her. And for the first time in months, I felt a flicker of relief. The courtroom was packed that morning, but the tension felt suffocatingly personal. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was the reckoning I had been bracing for months. Rachel arrived, draped in an oversized hospital jacket, her eyes red and swollen as if from endless tears. Beside her, my parents sat solemnly, wiping their faces with tissues, painting a picture of despair. But I knew better. Margaret, my lawyer, was calm and precise as she presented our case. She laid out the evidence like a puzzle coming together. The hospital bills with Rachel's forged signature, juxtaposed against my legitimate documents. The expert handwriting analysis that highlighted the subtle but undeniable differences. The surveillance footage clearly showing Rachel impersonating me at admissions. Screenshots of Rachel's own Facebook posts celebrating her recovery, publicly thanking me, an ironic admission of guilt. My work attendance records proving I was logged in and on the clock during the entire period she claimed to be hospitalized. The courtroom was silent except for Margaret's steady voice. Rachel's lawyer tried to discredit the evidence, suggesting stress and misunderstandings, but the judge wasn't having it. After what felt like hours, the judge leaned forward, voice firm. Based on the evidence, the court finds that Ms. Rachel Simmons knowingly committed insurance fraud and identity theft against Ms. Emily Carter. The charges against Ms. Carter are hereby dismissed in full. He continued, furthermore, the insurance claim of $200,000 is to be reimbursed by Ms. Simmons. Ms. Carter is also entitled to pursue damages for harm to her reputation and emotional distress caused by these actions. I looked at Rachel as she gasped, disbelief washing over her face. When she shouted down the hallway, "You ruined my life! You stole from me!" I met her gaze calmly. "No, Rachel. You stole my life. I just took it back." The courtroom murmured in approval as the judge banged the gavel. That day marked the end of my nightmare, but also the beginning of reclaiming my peace. After the court's ruling, the insurance company promptly cleared me of any financial responsibility. They reimbursed the $200,000 and even paid additional damages for the distress I'd suffered. But as I held that check in my hands, something felt off. I thought back to Rachel's posts, my parents' pleas, the neighbors' whispers, all focused on what I lost or what Rachel deserved. But what about the people who were actually hurt by this whole mess? I reached out to the Portland Community Health Fund, a nonprofit that helps underinsured patients cover life-saving surgeries. I made a donation, enough to cover a major portion of a heart surgery. That same week, I met Maya, a young single mother of 2, sitting nervously in the hospital waiting room. She was waiting for a heart valve replacement, but had been denied full coverage due to a complicated insurance situation. Her voice trembled as she told me about the months of uncertainty, the sleepless nights worrying about her kids. I told her, "You're not alone. Help is on the way." Watching Maya's tentative smile bloom into hope reminded me why I fought so hard. While my family had tried to make this battle about them, I was choosing to make it about something bigger. It wasn't just about reclaiming my name, it was about standing for those who had no voice. That evening, I sat on my balcony again, this time feeling lighter. The sun was setting over Portland, painting the sky in shades of gold. For the first time in months, I wasn't just surviving, I was moving forward. A few weeks after the court verdict, my phone rang late one evening. It was my mother. "Emily, please. Rachel needs a follow-up appointment. The doctors say it's urgent. Can you help her just this once?" I took a deep breath, feeling every old wound flicker anew. "Mom," I said steadily, "I saved Rachel once by letting the law handle the truth. Now, it's not my responsibility. It's the law's." She hesitated. "Please, Emily." For the family, I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm done being the fixer. This family, it's not about love. It's about what people want from you." I ended the call and immediately blocked their numbers. From that moment, I started living for me. No more guilt trips, no more silent sacrifices. I found peace in boundaries and truth. I moved into a new apartment, took up painting again, and reconnected with friends who reminded me what family could be. The last thing I did before closing the door on that chapter was write myself a note. Family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about respect, and not everyone deserves your sacrifice. And with that, I stepped into my new life, stronger, freer, and finally whole.